Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Lamar for Monday, June 14th, 2021. I'm Kirk Crespin, Mayor for the City of Lamar, and like to welcome you. So, one thing that I did notice as I was coming to the meeting tonight is all the flags down Main Street. Of course, today is Flags Day. We did not do a proclamation for the council, but there is a nationwide proclamation. Basically encourage our citizens, back in 1777 when they originally accepted and the Congress voted to have this flag as our national symbol. It's been a very big symbol for us throughout the wars, throughout all this history, and it does have a lot of history with it. So it's great to see it being displayed down Main Street in Lamar. I encourage everybody during the week, during Flag Week, which is the actual National Flag Week, to continue to hang your flags out and show your support. With that said, I'd like to move on to our City Council meeting. One change that I did need to make is I was going to cancel our executive session that we have scheduled for tonight. I had scheduled this executive session with the intent to discuss our city administrator candidates. They are in the middle of doing video interviews as well as some questionnaires, and they have not quite gotten those finished. So we will put this executive session off until the next meeting. So we'll remove that and modify the agenda. Do we have any other changes for the agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to the invocation with Ian Blacker, who will be doing our invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the beautiful weather and the sunshine that raises the crops in the fields and the pastures, and we thank you so much for the bountiful rains we've received in recent weeks. We're very, very grateful for that. We pray for 3 to 6 inches of rain over the next 10 days, nice and gentle, without any hail or very strong winds to saturate our pasture land, certainly our cropland as our farmers continue to work. We thank you for our City Council, for all the heads of the department, and for all those who work within the many departments to help make the City of Lamar run as smoothly as it possibly can. We thank you for plans for new businesses and existing businesses expanding. We pray for all of our city workers, all of the businesses trying to grow and get back on their feet after COVID-19. And we pray, Lord, that you give City Council and all the heads of department, all those who make the decisions in city, the wisdom and insight they need to make the best decisions possible for the benefit of the city, for all the people, whether it be visitors coming through or those planning to move into Lamar to stay or to start up new businesses. Just bless them, be with them, give them the wisdom and insight they need. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Jerry, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the time is now 7:03. I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Joe Gonzalez.
Here.
Rafael Rodriguez.
Here.
Jerry Jenkins.
Here.
Kurt Crespin.
Here.
Oscar Riley.
Here.
Manuel Temez.
Here.
Anne Marie Crampton.
Here.
Kristen McCrae.
Here.
Lance Clark.
Here.
Okay, everybody hopefully has had the chance to review the consent agenda. Were there any questions on that?
I move we approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Are there any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Oh, forgot to do our numbers. And Anne Marie too. Yes. Okay, motion passed unanimous. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comment. During this portion of the meeting, oh, am I missing one? Oh, the ordinance, second reading, separate. So we did have to, this was originally put in with the consent agenda, but there was a modification, so we'll need to do this separate. Is that right? Okay. All right, so we do have the ordinance second reading for the Ordinance establishing the Advisory Board for Public Safety for the City of Lamar, Colorado, amending the Lamar Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Article 1, Section 2-81, parentheses 11, and adding Chapter 2, Article 6, Division 10, Section 2-367, Section 2-368, and Section 2-369. So this is the ordinance to create the Advisory Board for Public Safety on the second reading. Did you have any questions, or we've already done the first reading? Anyone?
So, do we gotta make a motion?
Yes.
So I move we approve the second reading.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance on the second reading. Are there any final questions? Am I missing anything, Lance? We did read it on the first reading, yes, out loud.
Changes that were made to it were making specific places where it will fit to the ordinance, so that's the only modification.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any other final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and vote.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed unanimous. Now we'll move on to the audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject that does not appear on the agenda. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each, and it's at the discretion of the council. Is there anybody who would like to speak to the council tonight? Doesn't look like it. Of course, we do have our social media, and we are recording this live. So if there are any questions, you're welcome to post the questions. We'll try to address that during the miscellaneous items at the end of the meeting. So we'll move on to the city treasurer's report. Kristen?
Yes, thank you. The only thing I have on for tonight is I went ahead and certified the city to receive our American Recovery Act funds. That act was passed March 11 of 2021. And part of that act, there was going to be some direct payments to cities and counties in Colorado. So what the federal government decided to do was give it to each state, and then they would kind of go through the process and how that was going to go through. So that again went to DOLA. So there was just a certification process. We were getting it. So what I've attached in your packet is the list of, so what they did was the bigger cities, Denver and some of the bigger cities, got direct payments. And then the rest of the smaller cities are called non-entitlement units, and they decided to do that by population. So they split up the balance of those funds by population. So the city of Lamar is going to be receiving, let me get there, $1,924,082. $82. Yeah, yes, sir. So that will come in two lots. They'll do one in 2021 and one in 2022. So I just had to get on DOLA site, log in, and certify that the city of Lamar was able to receive those funds. That has been accepted by DOLA. They are reviewing it right now. I haven't gotten the final approval, but there really isn't anything to approve. That money is coming to us. It's an entitlement, basically. So there really wasn't any application process or anything. They had already decided what we were going to get. So I just wanted to share that with you. So when that money comes in my opinion, we should restrict it in a line that it won't go back into the general fund. It couldn't be used for a special thing. There are certain requirements that we have to follow. It's federal dollars passing through the state. So we can have later discussions on how we want to spend that money. So I just wanted you to know that I had started the process. It opened up last week, so as soon as it opened up, Kirk and I been getting emails, and Steve as well. So Brenda's been forwarding me those as well and staying on top of that certification process. So I just wanted you guys to be informed of what was going on with that. So. And I would entertain any questions if you guys had any.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to the city clerk's report. Linda?
So the April sales and use tax collected in May was $388,502.46, which was up 25.5%, or $78,927.83 from 2020. Our year-to-date collections are $2,015,190.72, which is up 22.21%, or $366,174.71 from 2020. Little insight on the increase of revenues. If you had looked at your graph, the manufacturing is up due to the city collecting an outstanding AR, accounts receivable, that was submitted to the state in error. It took about a year for the state to refund that to the customer, for them to send it back to us. Our restaurants and convenience stores were up about $22,000. From what I reviewed, I believe it is due to the COVID closure in 2020. A lot of the restaurants were closed in April, or minimal participation. Same with some of the convenience stores. So, and our other retail was up about 15,000. This looks like it was due to a couple of large online retail companies and a couple of telecommunication companies that remitted large monthly returns. The online ones, we can't necessarily pinpoint what they may have been purchasing. I mean, it could have been clothes, shoes, furniture, parts. It's that type of online company, so
Okay,
that's it.
that's great. It's a good report. Do we have any questions for the city clerk? Anyone? Seeing none, thank you very much, Linda. Seeing none, we'll move on to the city administrator report. Of course, as I mentioned at the last meeting, since Steve has moved away, Anne Marie Crampton, our mayor pro tem, and myself have been dividing the duties as the city administrator. So we're acting as the interim city administrator with different departments. Anne Marie, would you like to go first? Do you have anything to report? You want to talk about that?
Well, sure. Broward's Economic Prosperity's annual meeting is this Thursday at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7:30, so we're going to be on task and get people in and out. It's at the Wiley City Park, and we still have seats available if people want to go. I know the city of Lamar is going to bring 8 people, which is great, but we do have more seats available. And we will be announcing our new slate of officers, so I'll keep you in suspense. And then to just kind of roll into the department, I think that the only thing that I wanted to lead in on is something that Chief Miller will be talking about later, and that's code enforcement, because that seems to be a hot topic right now.
Okay. As far as my side, with the airport, coming up on Saturday, June the 19th, we will be having the grand opening of the the Southeast Colorado Regional Airport. Our Lamar Municipal Airport was redesignated to be a regional airport last year, but during COVID, we didn't have the opportunity to really celebrate that. So over the last couple of months, the city of Lamar has also been taking over as the fixed base operator at the Southeast Colorado Regional Airport. So with those two changes, we thought we would do one big event and do the ribbon cutting for the Southeast Colorado Regional Airport, show everybody our new logo, our new plans, and some of the changes that we've made out there. So we'll be having a free breakfast for anybody who would like to attend. We'll have a fly-in for pilots. We also will be having some door prizes and giveaways and little airplanes for the kids as well. So if you have an opportunity this Saturday morning, it starts at 7 until, is that 10, Martha? 7 to 10 on Saturday morning. We'll be out at the airport, and we'd love to see you there. Aside from that, Sunday, June 20th, this Sunday is Father's Day, And then Sunday, June 20th, summer also begins, so here comes the heat. And then Wednesday, June 23rd at 7 is the Bike to Work Day. Do you know what all is involved with the Bike to Work Day? Does anybody, are they doing the breakfast still, or are they just doing the bike to work?
Usually they have.
And where is that at? At the community building?
Yeah.
So they will be having the breakfast at the community building for the Bike to Work Day. So if you ride your bike there, you'll get the breakfast and participate in the Bike to Work activities. Other than that, there was a couple of items that I wanted to bring out on my side. Been meeting with our team in the mornings for breakfast, just so I can get to my regular job. But as we've been meeting, I've been doing updates. And it was nice to hear some of the updates that we have. We have been doing a lot of work out there. Many of you have noticed at the North Gateway Park. They are almost complete with the boat ramp work that's out there in North Gateway, probably about 75, 60 now. I know they were out there today doing a lot more work. But the intent is to get the sidewalks made from all the way for the ADA ramps. The kayak building is completed. We also have Aquaholics that's out there already. So the beach area should be done within the next week or two before the grand opening of that area, which is the July 3rd weekend. And then also, very exciting, or for me it's very exciting, June 21st, we have it scheduled for the Troy Motel demolition. So I know a lot of people have been waiting for that to see what's going to happen with the Troy Motel. Now that we have the permits in and everything scheduled, that's what our target date is. Hopefully everything will keep going as smooth as it has been, and we'll be able to do that. But nonetheless, we should have it down by end of the month. Is that right, Pat?
Actually, we're going to start
On the 17th. Oh, that's even better. So they'll be doing that on the 17th for the Troy Motel.
that changed today.
Just today it changed. You didn't tell me that one.
And will
But-
you be notifying the DHS department so they can move all their cars? Okay. Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll be notifying DHS and letting them know tomorrow, and that'll be on the 17th. Okay. All right, and that's all I had for the city administrator reports. And Anne Marie, did you have anything last to add? No. Okay. Any questions for us from the council? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the reports and correspondence from the council. So any liaison reports or any other items that we want to discuss? Anybody?
Golf.
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 Okay.
Play was up in May. Southeastern Colorado Cancer Initiative Tournament will be June 19th. DECA is having one in August, and Angel Open is in August also. They started youth clinics the 9th of last week, whenever it was. It's ages 6 to 8 and 9 to 11. You'd have to call out there for the times, for which age group. They converted Bunker 7 from sand to grass, if anybody's interested. Ordered a pallet of insecticide for $2,500. Going to put some kind of new screens around hole number 3, and they're going to buy some tables from the Elks, access tables that the Elks have, and that's it.
Okay. Do we have any other liaison reports?
The water board had a meeting, and just one of the items that we probably talked about is the Prowers Journal posted some information on water quality, and also in there were some violations that were listed time. One was for surveys and the other was for backflow devices. But currently, we are in compliance, but when it was originally posted, it was not, but we are currently in compliance. I just wanted that.
Okay. So I think we had this discussion last year about the backflow devices, and a lot of it was on Main Street, is that right? Commercial buildings, it's all commercial businesses. So they were wanting commercial businesses to put in backflow prevention devices, and I know we had that discussion last year with Roger, or the year before maybe. So it's been an ongoing concern. But
And also our water storage at 4,136 acre feet, is that correct?
All right. Anybody else have a liaison report? I did get a letter today, an email today, from a Brittany Lofton. She's a graduate student working on her master's degree at Angelo State University. For her, she's working on her thesis, and she's doing a study on a bird called the Mississippi kite. She found online in doing some research that there are quite a few Mississippi kites in Lamar and in the southern Great Plains area where we live. So she had emailed me and asked me if it was okay for us to be, or for her to come to Lamar and do her research between the dates of July 22nd and the 25th. She has, she would be trying to trap one of the birds so that she could do some tests, or we put a band on it for tracking. But she does have permits already from the federal government as well as the Colorado state government. So it looks like everything, after review, she has everything in order. I just wanted to bring it up to everybody and make sure that there was no other concerns from the council with us allowing her to do that. Is everybody okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, I will notify her and let her know that she is good to proceed. All right, with that said, we'll move on to our old business. We do have an item on the old business, which was to approve Central Security Communications alarm monitoring system contract for services at two of the City of Lamar buildings located at 104 East Parmenter and 407 East Olive. This is brought in by Anthony Aguilera and Craig Brooks. So Craig, would you like to speak on this?
Sure. Good evening, council and everyone. This was actually brought forth on 5/24, but I had not received the contract until the morning of. So Lance has since had a chance to look at it, made his corrections, and the owner of Rocky Mountain Fire and Security has signed it and turned it back to get council's approval and have the mayor sign it if everybody's on board with it.
Okay. Do you have any questions on this?
What changes need to be made there, Lance?
It was an addendum, which is, I think, on the last page of the agreement now, which the individuals who provided the contract also signed that, so I don't have any issues with it now. There was just an issue with getting in compliance with Tabor and the financial obligations with that, so that's been addressed, and I think you guys are good to approve it now.
Okay.
With the mayor to sign.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Whoops. Try again. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda would be the new business. Item number 1 is to ratify council approval for the Proclamation 2103, which was a proclamation in recognition of Joe Martinez on the occasion of his induction into the Athletics Hall of Fame at Colorado State University of Pueblo. This, we were addressed or requested to have this proclamation, and they asked for it just from the mayor, but I felt it would be more significant if the council also did this. So that's why I had asked the council to do this proclamation along with me, so it would be a complete proclamation from the city. Do we have any final questions on this or any action?
I move we ratify the POMPO.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion passed unanimous. Agenda item number 2, resolution number 21-06-01, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lamar, Colorado, opposing Colorado Senate Bill 21-273, which is a pretrial reform concerning measures to increase public safety by minimizing custodial responses to low-level offenses. This resolution was brought in by Rafael Rodriguez, our city council member. And would you like to speak on this?
Yeah, so back in May, we approved the resolution opposing Senate Bill 21062, which was supposed to get rid of some jail depopulation reform bill, which was going to let the low-level offenses out in the streets and not allow officers to arrest them. So that wasn't very popular with the entire state. So the senators kind of repackaged this a little bit. Same wording basically throughout the whole context, and just kind of renamed it as a pretrial reform bill. I'm just going to ask that the council kind of table it. The legislation has closed for the summer, and I guess we'll wait and see if they bring it back next session.
Didn't it die? I
The-
mean, it voted down.
Well, Senate Bill the Senate Bill 62 just kind of died.
Well,
It just got so much opposition on it that they just kind of let it go. And Senate Bill 273, which is the new bill that they're trying to pass, is basically exactly the same.
because I know one of them died from 2 Democratic senators or somebody voting with the Republicans against it.
But they're trying to push it again as Senate Bill 273 as a pretrial reform.
Okay.
Same thing, same wording. Actually, I think if you read it, it gets a little bit worse.
Okay. But there was no action taken, so we can table this, is that correct?
Correct.
So with it being a table, can we do a motion to table this?
So moved. Second that.
I have a motion and a second to table resolution 210601. Any final questions? Seeing none, please vote. Motion passed unanimous. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is code enforcement process. This was something that Chief Miller thought would be good to have a discussion about, so we wanted to present this to the city council. Chief Miller, would you like to proceed?
So I guess with all the weeds, or all the rain comes the weeds. So the rain's a good thing, then it creates all the weeds that we have around town. So I just kind of want to give you an update or how our process works. The first thing we do is we hand out a door hanger. That's kind of the first process whenever we contact a resident that has problems with weeds or junk or other things.
Okay.
You just gonna have to honest.
Luckily, I've never seen one of these before.
We can give you one anytime you like.
Okay, thanks.
So the first step is if the officers are in the area, the code enforcement officers are in the area, see a residence, then they go and contact them, try to contact them in person. If we can't contact them in person, we put one of these on the door. If we contact them in person, we hand it to them directly. They then have 14 days in the case of weeds to clean up, bring it into compliance, and 15 days in the case of junk vehicles. So vehicle without license plates, vehicle in disrepair, got the motor pulled out of it, sitting in the front yard. We give them 15 days to bring that up to speed. We are governed by the International Property Maintenance Code, which has the requirements of the 12-inch weeds. So once they reach 12 inches, they're in violation of the International Property Maintenance Code. And then there is some things in there for notifications for the due process part of us making sure they're aware that they need to bring that into compliance. The compliance rate has increased significantly in the past 7 years. I talked to Code Enforcement Supervisor Davis. He said it was probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 30%, and now it's probably up around 80% compliance. So whenever we hand one of these out, we're getting 80% compliance for the people that are receiving these or bringing the property up to speed with what they need to be. Just kind of some numbers. I ran the numbers for the 2 code enforcement officers since January 1st of 2019. Code enforcement officer Jose Lozoya has had 5,050 events. Of those, 2,125 were ordinance violations. So that includes appliances, junk vehicles, major recreational equipment, ordinance violation, trash, water restriction, and weeds. The weeds was by far the largest amount of that, is about 50% of 1,030 33 for him. And Code Enforcement Supervisor Kenny Davis, 5,033 events. Of those, the ordinance violations were 2,327, with the weeds being the significant majority again of 1,166 of those 2,327. These are the two busiest employees in my department. They handle about 50% of our calls every year. So they are out. One thing I would like to encourage people to do is if they see a violation, to call dispatch and let us know, because they can't make it down every street every day to make sure everybody's in compliance. So, if you think your neighbor has too many weeds, give us a call. We can go over and check on it. If they are, we can give them a warning and get it cleaned up. I've been seeing a lot more people out around town mowing. Whenever I go out and drive around, seeing people keeping their properties much cleaner than used to. I know we went down to Springfield a couple years ago, and their council members were very impressed with how clean our town was. They said, "Thank you for keeping your town clean. How do you do it?" We went down there and spoke with them on 2 different occasions now on how our code enforcement works. So those guys do a great job. They work very hard. I would rather have the voluntary compliance, people just doing it, rather than us having to go out there and tell them to mow their yard or mow the weeds or do whatever they need to do. But unfortunately, if we had that, these 2 guys probably wouldn't have a job. So, and that's what I say about my job too. So I wish I didn't have a job, because then we wouldn't have any crime in our town. But, so I'd gladly answer any questions about the code enforcement process.
Vacant lots,
What about it?
we just turn it in and have the city look up the owner?
No, we have an address book, so we can look it up by number and street. We can also get hold of the county assessor, and they'll give us that information of who the owner is. A lot of those, if they're out of town, we'll send them a certified letter, because obviously there's no way for us to give them the door hanger. We'll send them a certified letter, and then that comes back, and then we give them the 15 days or the 14 days to bring that property into compliance. It's getting a lot better though. If you remember 7, 8 years ago, it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Anything else? I did that good?
You
No
did
way.
great.
No way.
You did great.
No, you're welcome to, now you can have one.
Okay.
Well, tell them thank you. Those guys are nonstop.
They are constant. It never ceases to amaze me how much those guys do. They're doing 20 a day on some days, so they're very impressive.
What do you think changed from 7 years ago?
Enforcement. We took it over about 8 years ago. It was assigned to the police department. Before it was in a different area. I don't remember exactly where it was, but about 8 years ago.
Buildings under what Craig is doing now.
Yeah. And so we have the employees and the time to go out there and knock on doors and encourage people to comply.
Good job.
Nice job.
Okay.
I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move ahead with the agenda. Next item is the intent to participate in a coordinated election. This was submitted by Linda Williams. Linda, would you like to discuss this?
So this is the letter that I need to submit to the Powers County Clerk and Recorder. It's just telling her that, yes, we are going to participate in a coordinated election. And if you read the information that I attached to it, that we have vacancies in all of our wards this year, along with the mayor, and there potentially could be 1 to 2 questions on the ballot. That's just giving her the heads up that we will be participating.
So we just need a motion to approve
So that
the
I can submit
intent.
it.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and the motion passed unanimous. All right, the next item on the agenda is the election update. This kind of goes hand in hand with the previous one. This was brought in by the city clerk as well. So Linda, would you like to discuss this?
Sure. So, Mayor Crespin asked that I do an election update. I've got it in two different parts. So our candidate information, we are, for 2021, we're going to have several positions up in the wards along with the mayor at large. Mayor Crespin's term ends on November of 2021. Mayor is a 2-year term. In Ward 1, Councilmember Temez will be due for appointment, or due to appointment in November of 2019 to continue his Ward 1 council member. He will have to run in the 2021 election, which will be for a 4-year term ending 2025. In Ward 2, Councilmember Riley, his regular term ends in November of 21. To continue as Ward 2 council member, he will also have to run ending in 2025. For Ward 3, Councilmember Rodriguez, some history. His was a 2-year term due to an appointment in November of 2017. Then he was elected to a 2-year term ending in 2019. To continue his Ward 3 council member, he will run in 2021, and it will be a 4-year term for ending in 2025. Councilmember Gonzalez, due to appointment in November of 2019, to continue his Ward 3 council member. He will run in the 2020 election with a 2-year term ending in 2023. First day for candidates to pick up and circulate petitions for signatures in their wards will be August 3rd, ending August 23rd. It's a 20-day period. Council members need to obtain 25 signatures from registered voters in their ward, and mayor needs to collect 50 signatures from registered voters within the city limits. Write-in candidates, so after the petitions from the council members, write-in candidates have until 4 p.m. on August 25th to file an affidavit of intent to run. All candidates are required, that turn in their petitions, all candidates are required to complete a contribution and expenditure report. There are 3 separate dates, even if they do not receive or expense any funds. They need to turn these reports in. The dates are October 12th, October 30th, and December 2nd. That's just a brief update for candidates. So on to our next issue would be potentially a ballot question. I don't know if everybody was aware, but Soco Rocks out of Pueblo, Colorado, they came and wanted to potentially get something on the ballot regarding dispensaries in Lamar. So they were required to submit a petition question and go out and gather signatures. They were required to get 5% of the registered voters from the 2020, the last election, 2020 election, 5% of the registered voters, which was approximately 225. They did manage to do that. I have verified all of those petitions and confirmed that they were good. The next step is to create an ordinance with ballot question or questions and present to the council for first reading no later than July 12th. Second reading has to be no later than July 26th, and this will keep us within the time frame of the election calendar and enough time to turn in the city ballot content to the county clerk.
I think it's important to state this, that of course over the last 12 years, I think was when it was last put on the ballot, the city council has stayed out of it. They've stayed neutral. If somebody wanted to put the initiative to open dispensaries in Lamar on the ballot, we've left it up to the private citizens to bring it in and at their own expense and to do their own work. The city council decided not to do it themselves. So we have never brought it in. We haven't supported nor declined it. We've stayed neutral with this initiative. And there's no difference with this. This was an initiative that SoCo Rocks brought to us. asked what they needed to do. We told them, and for the first time, I mean, I've had people approach me many, many times over the last 5 years interested in doing this and getting it on the ballot, but nobody has actually done the work. So, I mean, SoCo Rocks did do the work. They put the investment in. They'll be paying for this to be put on the ballot themselves. City Council has nothing to do with that. So I wanted to make sure to let everybody know that that is kind of the stance that we've been taking. If I'm looking at that wrong, please let me know, but that's what we've been trying to do. Also with that, I think, I believe that there's so much entangled in this, and in talking to the other mayors and cities that actually do have dispensaries in their community, there's a lot of different moving components to this ordinance, and if we can miss a few things, or we can do a couple of things wrong, and it can cause us a lot of grief. So I was going to propose that we set up a committee of 2 or 3, 4 people that would meet with Linda, work with Linda, and try to work with Lance and create an ordinance that's going to be appropriate for our community. I know Steve had worked on an ordinance with you, Lance, is that right? An initial ballot question?
Yeah, the ballot question we've worked on.
Okay. So as we're getting a little bit more in depth with this, it may not pass, but if it does, we really need to have our ducks in a row, so to speak. I've asked Brenda Van Kempen, the administrative assistant, to pull up our old information from 2010, and I do have all of that information. It does have the ordinance that they created back in 2010 and all the information that they had from their investigation and working with their attorney back in 2010, our attorney. So we do have some information that we can utilize, but there's been a lot of changes since in the past 11 years. So I'm sure it would be great to meet with the other communities, Los Animas, Rocky Ford, Trinidad, and see where they, had the struggles at, and maybe they can help guide us into that. There's also CML, who has a lot of resources, and CIRSA, who has a lot of resources. But I don't have the time to work on this directly. I was going to ask if there was anybody on the council that would be interested in doing that. Anybody? Not really? But I do think this is going to be one of those situations where it's really going to affect our community if it does pass. So getting the right verbiage in there is going to be very important to us. Am I looking at that wrong?
No, I
Lance?
agree. I mean, I think we have enough time span now where this has been passed in the state, and different municipalities have passed it at different points, that there's probably some good examples that we can use and take from and build something that we really like. And it's just going to be a process of going through it and finding, what we think fits with the community if it ends up passing. And I think that the city wants to control the language as much as they can, because we don't want to be in some situations where something passes and then there's no element to tax, or who knows what other issues can come about if they don't have the language right the first time.
And how to monitor it, and how to control it, and how to keep the regulations and the.
Yeah, ballot questions are really important.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to serve on that committee.
Anybody else? And Joe Gonzalez? So Councilman Gonzalez, Anne Marie Crampton, Kristen McCray showed some interest, and so we can only do 2 on the council, sorry. Chief Miller, would you be interested in helping? And then you, the city clerk. So that gives a fairly good committee if we can get together and go through some of this information and try to hammer it. I know there's been discussions, and Steve had talked about, well, maybe we can just minimize it to 3, but then the question is, which 3? Who 3? Are we going to end up putting ourselves in a position where we're showing discrimination or favoritism? We don't want to do that either. So we really have to get the language right, so we're not boxing ourselves into a bad position if it does pass. So this is very important. So really, I appreciate you guys doing this. Okay. Did anybody have questions for Linda on her report? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Can you pass this down to Anne-Marie? This all that information from 2010.
Can I get a copy of this?
Yeah, or if you want to keep it, then give it to her.
If you don't mind.
Yep, just, or scan it and send it. Yep. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to award bid 41-001 or 011, contract for janitorial services of Lamar, Colorado Welcome Center. This was brought in by the assistant to the city administrator, Brenda Van Campen, but I'll speak on this a little bit. The city of Lamar published a call for bid number 4111 for janitorial services of Colorado Welcome Center. The bid opening was on the 26th of this May 26th. There was only one bid that received the bid, and as you can see, it was Daniel Newbold, who has been doing this for a few years now, and he bid at the $675. So it is per month, $675 per month. Do we have any questions for this? Would you like to speak on this?
We've been doing it all along, haven't we? 675?
Yeah.
I move we award the bid to Mr. Newhold.
I'll second.
I reviewed it, I don't have any issues with it, same as last year.
Okay. So it has been reviewed by the city attorney.
And authorize the mayor to sign it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this contract or the award the bid. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion passes unanimous. Item number 7 is to schedule a public hearing for the special event permit for the Sand and Sage Roundup. Linda brought this in. Would you like to speak on that for a minute?
So this is what the Sand and Sage Roundup has done in the past. It's for their beer garden. They have done some significant improvements out there. I think once the public hearing takes place, that somebody from the Fair Board will give council the update on the improvements that they've done. So I'm just asking permission to schedule it for July 12th.
So, second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set the hearing at July 12th. Is there any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and the motion passes unanimous. Next item, number 8, is ground engineering proposal for special inspection services for the Main Street Waterline Phase 3. This was brought in by Patrick Mason, and I decided to put it at the end of the agenda so he'd have to stay later.
Appreciate that.
Just kidding.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I have a proposal from Ground Engineering, and basically what it amounts to is it's for concrete testing, compaction testing, some soils testings on the Main Street Waterline Replacement Project. Ground Engineering actually did our Phase 2 testing for us, and it more or less amounts to like quality control on the overall project. So for the Phase 3 project, they're proposing $24,795 for the complete contract, so to speak. I think the agreement's pretty much the same as it was for Phase 2, other than they did call out the fact that they won't do the coring for the asphalt testing. They'll do the testing for the asphalt, but we'll have to perform the coring itself, so.
Okay, have you had a chance to review this, Lance?
I reviewed it, I don't have any issues with it. Same contract that they proposed, contract-wise, as the previous Phase 2 that we approved. As Pat noted, that was the only difference that I caught, or at least one of the only differences was the coring issue, which Pat mentioned that they have their own machine, or we have our own machine, and that there might be a different company doing that anyway, so.
Okay. What's the council's pleasure?
I move we approve the service agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any final questions? Seeing none?
That's what they're working on there right now?
Yes.
How long are they gonna take?
By September, we're hoping it should be finished, barring any weather setbacks or if everything goes well, by the end of September, I think as far as our water line project should be complete.
But then CDOT will be coming in a few months later, or a month or two later, to start the road construction.
I want to get one section done. Yeah.
So we have a lot of construction happening. It'll look great when it's done.
Well, it's gonna be nice.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and the motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the intergovernmental agreement with Lamar Community College. This was brought in by Rick Akers, who is out on leave right now. But the Parks and Rec Director has been meeting with Lamar Community College to renegotiate the intergovernmental agreement, which expired on June 30th of 2021. The intergovernmental agreement is a 3-year fixed cost agreement for $16,500 per year. It's the same agreement as last time, with the only change being the dates of the agreement. So staff is asking for approval of this agreement and is asking to authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved with the mayor signing. Second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve with the mayor signing.
Yes.
Are there,
So you mentioned it was a 3-year contract to use the merchant fields. It looks like that the city will be receiving about $6,500 per year for the next 3 years. It gives the college the priority in scheduling, but not an exclusive right to basically schedule over anything else. Also notice in here, which is kind of, I don't know, caught my eye, the city is granted a license in this, and then also that they the city has a non-exclusive right to use college facilities. So that was just something that I had caught reading through it and found it interesting. So
okay.
I assume that's kind of how the city does the agreement for using the facilities and stuff out there, is maybe through something like that.
Yeah,
So.
intergovernmental agreement for that. I think they just threw those in to marry at the same time, if I remember right. Okay, are there any questions? Seeing none, please vote. For all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and the motion passed unanimous. Okay, agenda item number 10, sprinkler system and sod for the soccer fields at Escondido Park. This was brought in by Rick Akers, but I understand Craig Brooks is working on this project. Staff's been working with LCC to build 2 soccer fields at Escondido Park, as we've instructed. We did meet with LCC staff last week to finalize construction plans. At the meeting, we had a lot of different discussions, and we had the option to do, with enough money, just to do 1 field with lights or 2 fields with no lights. And in talking to LCC, they felt that having the opportunity to use 2 fields for rotation of games and practice would be more beneficial than having lights during the summer when it's they don't use the nighttime games very often. So we did modify that to change it to do 2 fields rather than 1, and we will be taking away or using the funds to offset the cost on those fields from the lighting. City Council has already approved the concept, and staff is asking approval for the proposal agreement from Timberline Landscaping. Okay. I just had a question on the Timberline Landscaping. This is one, I didn't see any other bids on it, and I was told that maybe there was a reasoning for that. I was going to ask.
Okay, so GOCO has a different process than we go through, say, with DOLA. DOLA requires we go out for bid on a lot of their grants. GOCO, it happens in the process prior to them approving our budget. So what was proposed to you, and what was that, what did we decide, December of 20? You saw that budget that GOCO had finally approved. We'd sent it back and forth. They have a list of approved vendors that they use for the state. So Kendra actually had to go out, once you guys prioritized your projects, you wanted 4 things done. We got all 4 of those onto a budget sheet for GOCO. They have a special sheet, but Kendra had to go out for each of your 4 projects to the GOCO approved vendors, get bids with the specifications that we had set up. So that is all set up, and then the final process of that is then GOCO comes in and approves that budget. They say, yes, okay, here you go. There's your 4 projects, that's the cost of them. We're approving all of that. You've used our vendors. So then when we get to this process, that's all been done by GOCO. So then we come back to Timberline, they give us the actual agreement, which you have before you tonight, saying, yes, the city is agreeing. Now, what we had to decide was whether we wanted 1 field and lights, or whether we wanted 2 fields, no lights. So the Timberline had actually given us 2 agreements to reflect that. So they'd given us, so then we went back to Timberline, verified the pricing, got the final contract for the 2 fields once we had our meeting the other day, and then kind of changed that scope. Those, and so all of that is in that, and it doesn't go over the price for that particular project. It all stays within that particular project. So they work quite a bit different than GOCO does, because all of that has to happen on the front end. So before we even get to that. So then it gets easier for us as we go along, because all that's already been established.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure in case we have the opportunity. I know I talked to Craig about, I didn't know if we could get comparative bids, but if you're saying that's required.
Once we approve that budget and GOCO approves that budget, we stick with it, and the vendors that they have laid out for us. So. And they use Timberline for this. I know they use like Musco for the lighting. They have certain ones that they have already established the state contracts with. So.
Okay.
I'd just add that I think there's a perception in our community that with these improvements, Escondido will become LCC's fields and no other. And I want to kind of break through that to say LCC with bringing on soccer programs will be a major user, but those will not be LCC's exclusive fields, and that will still be it will still be city and open to the public. I think just hearing through the grapevine that there's been concerns that it's only going to be used by LCC, and that is absolutely incorrect.
Well, it's similar to the ball field agreement that we'll do a similar intergovernmental agreement as we did with the ball fields earlier in the meeting. There will be an intergovernmental agreement, they'll use it, we'll work out that agreement, and they'll have preference, but they're not going to have exclusivity.
Right.
So.
You'll still see youth soccer at Escondido.
Yes.
Yeah,
As a
because
matter of
those
fact,
other
it may
fields
enhance it.
aren't going to change. The smaller fields that they use for the kids and stuff, those aren't going to change. This is in a different area.
Right.
So
if anything, it'll enhance youth soccer for the
Right.
city.
Mhm.
Yep.
Just as a question, I don't know, with what is being proposed with the 2 fields, in the future, would it be possible to install lights? I mean,
Yes.
is it designed to where they'll be able to put lights still afterwards? I mean, is that something that's they
Yeah. And it was brought to our attention that, all college games are played during the day. A lot of the high school have their own lights on their field, so if they were going to use our field for tournaments and things, they could do those during the day. It'd be a scheduling thing, as Kirk said. So I think it just came down to there's just not a whole lot of night soccer. So, but if that does come up, and we find funding for it, it's quite expensive.
It gives us a lot of flexibility as far as, one of the intents of doing the soccer field is to be able to host tournaments as well. And having the 2 regulation-sized fields, they can actually host a tournament, and they can do around, have 2 games going at the same time. So it gives us the flexibility as a city to be able to host some of those soccer tournaments, as well as the college. They'll be able to do that as well. So, and this is going to be a project that, when we're done with this first part of it, it's going to be very basic, very simple. And our hope is, as years go by and we're able to find new grants, we'll be able to expand on it, and it'll be a growing project. So this is the first start of many different components to this. Someday maybe bleachers and lights and bigger, better items, showers, locker rooms.
Fencing.
But all of those things are
Announcers
just
booth.
steps, the stepping stones, and this is the
Trees.
first step, so.
So that's a wonderful idea. I don't know if you guys paid attention to the springs season for the youth. They actually had so many teams this spring that they had to play some of the games in Corporalsville and some in the Escondido Park, and that was just hard on some of the parents who had kids of different age. Who did they go see? Did they go see this kid? Did they go see that kid? And I think that will probably help parents a lot.
Yeah,
Who have multiple kids, want to see different kids play.
I agree. Okay. So what's the council's pleasure?
I move we approve it.
I'll second.
Do we have any final questions on it? Any more discussion?
I don't have any issues with it. I guess just to point out that even in our discussion with Kristen, it sounded though they're going to put sod on everything, and that was one of my questions is, just knowing our conditions out here for growing grass are not ideal sometimes. So it sounds like they're going to put it in September-ish timeframe, and so apparently that's the best time to do that.
It's the ideal time to plant sod.
So that's.
Well, they said September, and then nobody would be on it until the following fall, so they'd have a full year to really get embedded and deep rooted, so hopefully that'll help and strengthen it.
So just wanted to point out some of those things that I was thinking about when I was reading it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. With no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passed unanimous. Okay. Moving along, agenda item number 11 is appointments to the Adjustment and Appeals Board. Mr. Brooks presented this to the council. Would you like to speak on it?
Yes, the Jim Lyric's term is up, and we did properly advertise it, and we would love to keep him on the board.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Are there any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion passed unanimous. Okay, next item is permission for Craig Brooks on behalf of the city of Lamar to apply for the Colorado Department of Transportation Revitalizing Main Streets Small Multimodal and Economic Resiliency Grants. Craig?
Council, this is just a request to apply for the grant. If in fact you guys approve it tonight, then I will be working diligently with Kristen to prepare all of the necessary paperwork for CDOT. This is the grant that will help us continue to get all of our sidewalks on the east side of Main Street compliant from the college parking lot across the new pedestrian bridge and back to the park, Bicentennial Park. So that'll allow us to finish that project over there.
So with the new upgrades that they're going to be doing here in the near future, as far as Main Street is concerned, they'll be repaving that and doing the concrete from Park South. The intent was to apply for these funds so that we can get ADA sidewalks from Park South, just like we have from Park to Colonia right now. And this, in speaking with CDOT last week, they were happy to see that we were looking at the ADA requirements, and that's one of the things that the state has really been trying to push, is cities to become ADA compliant in their sidewalks. So.
And Council, one of the nice things about this grant is they will allow us to use in-kind work to meet the match. So it doesn't cost us other than what we already, it costs us, but it doesn't, we don't have to come up with extra funds to make this grant work.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passed unanimous. Next item on the agenda is number 13, which is similar. Notify council and allow Craig Brooks on behalf of the city of Lamar to apply for the same CDOT Revitalizing Main Street Small Multimodal Economic Resiliency Grant for $125,000 with a local match of $10,000. I'll let you speak on this.
Local match of 12.5, sir.
12.5,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
This is an identical grant. CDOT is awarding on a first-come, first-served basis. This will address the west side from Savage to Bicentennial. Same concept, only over there we don't have a lot of structure that we can keep, so I upped the price a little bit. They'll allow us to apply for grants up to $250,000. Most of the other cities that applied for these grants kept everything at 120 or less, and then you submit it and they pick from their committee.
Why two different? Why can't we just combine one grant? Is it just?
I believe if we combined one grant, we wouldn't get it. I mean, I really do. Because they'll look at the dollar amount, and they can look at it this way and say, we can give one here, one over there, one here, and come back. Just based on the track record of what they showed us.
Make sense?
We're hoping that works.
Make a motion to apply.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimous. Next item is agenda number 14, which is to discuss or adopt the new 2018 International Building Codes by ordinance with two exclusions of the ISPSC and the IECC, which would be the old 2015 codes. This was brought to us a couple of years ago, and they had some discussions, but with all the changes now, we thought we would reintroduce it, and I'll let you speak on it.
The ordinance that was actually drafted that's in your packet, that was actually done by Steve. He got on board with it and just never had a chance to bring it forward with everything. The rest of the packet we put together, the multiple meetings I had with other committee members, contractors, citizens, who are in support of this, bringing us from the 2006 to the 2018. Some of the benefits, and I attached a little letter to each council packet. There's a couple of highlights, and one of them being that our ISO, which is the Insurance Service Office, rates us down by 15 points because we're in the 2006. If we get into the 2018, that 15-point rating will disappear, and it should potentially put us in a better rating for the insurance for all of our citizens, for hail, and just their homeowners insurance and that type of stuff. It's pretty in-depth. I gave you a lot of information. The biggest highlights are newer materials, better language. One of the reasons that we separated out the 2015 International Energy Code is the 18 Energy Code is pretty oppressive. So it really would put an undue financial burden on our citizens and our contractors. The 15 gets us more current, but it's not as oppressive as the 18 or the 21.
In our discussions, the intent is to help lower the insurance rates of our community. And we don't want to make it a issue for our contractors by any means, or for anybody to be able to build a house. We're not trying to make it more difficult, but we are trying to make it to where we can stay within a certain amount of codes that will keep it less expensive for our communities to get insurance. As you can see on the blue tab, one of the tabs that he'd given you, the board had, his board had looked into this, and you'll see that there's quite a few individuals, Rod Dunn, Wayne Stiles, Sean Lyerly, Dwight Daniels, Earl Hawkins, and then so on. So there's a pretty good list. And they all went through and they talked about what their concerns were and whether or not they approved or would support this EVC 2018. And you can kind of see where their rankings were. Am I missing anything there?
No,
Great.
you're spot on. We probably met 3 or 4 times, lengthy discussions, just so that they could get a grasp of the 18 versus the 6 and those kind of things. Our fire department, I will say this would also help them. They're trying to work out of multiple books. 4, I believe, is the exact number. This would allow them to work out of just 2 books. When they do state projects, they're always going to be in the current one, which is 2021, but this would then bring them to the 18, and they wouldn't have to look at the 6 as well. They were adamant about the sprinkler system in residential, which is a requirement in the 18, but I feel like we came up with a solution. I don't think it's a benefit to our citizens here in Lamar, but we didn't want to take it out altogether. We allowed, if someone builds a new home and this would pass, they could opt to put in a sprinkler, which we would inspect and enforce, or they could opt not to do it at their choice and not incur the expense.
Well, I think this is, the packet that you give us was pretty extensive, and I don't want to put the council on the spot as far as making a decision tonight. I think it would be appropriate to let the council read into this over the next couple of weeks and bring it back to the next meeting. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And if anybody has any questions, I would hope that they would feel free to reach out, and maybe I can have the answer and bring it back to council as well.
Is that okay with the council?
Motion to table it.
Yeah, we have a motion to table it,
Second.
and a second. Any final questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's okay. And the motion passed unanimous, so.
Thank you.
We will table it to the next meeting. Okay, since we did cancel the executive session, all we have left is the miscellaneous items. Do we have any miscellaneous? Any questions that we brought up? Martha? Online? No? Okay, anything that the council would like to discuss before we go?
I would just like to remind people that it is yard sale season. If they need to remember to pick up their signs after their yard sale is done and not leave them on somebody's property, or their signs that they're sticking on poles, just be courtesy enough to remove the signs and throw them out in your trash.
Very good. Any others?
I was just talking with Joe a little bit, and I'll help Anne Marie with that marijuana language.
Instead of Joe?
Yeah, he's really wanting to get on that committee, so.
I was kind of starting to raise my hand a little bit until Joe beat me, so.
So we'll make that change. And Raphael will work on that instead of Joe. Okay, with that said, if there's no other miscellaneous items, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes and our meeting is ended. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. See you next time.